Hey, happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Fuel for Success. It's awesome to see everybody on here this morning. I'm excited about today's show. This is episode 3. What a landmark thing we've got here. It's the 3rd of January, and from Minnesota and from Florida coming live, and everybody that's joining us. It's just fantastic to see you.
Assuming my weather's
Today is
probably a little
Friday.
better than your weather today.
I love Minnesota. I am very tired of single digit and negative temperatures. It is going to get up to 20 degrees today, just long enough to snow, and then it's going to drop back. And there's a high of Sunday of minus 12, so
Nice.
it'll be a little cold. Um, hey, I'm excited about today's
Here,
topic.
we had a
And
cold
as you
front come
know, on
through.
Fuel for Success,
Sorry to interrupt, but we had a cold front.
yeah.
It's 48 today. I actually walked outside this morning. I was like, oh my God, have mercy. Turned cold. I'm sure we saw 48 degrees. I'm still shocked about Alabama getting beat like the way they did last night. I don't know if you watched the game. I don't know how many of you out there watched the game. I'm shocked. I couldn't believe it. I mean, literally, I don't think anything else in 2014 can shock me more. I tweeted last night, don't be surprised if on New Year's Eve 2014, I tweet the most shocking experience of 2014 was Alabama losing to Oklahoma. They basically played a high school team last night. And it's just I'm shocked to see my boy Saban go down twice in a row. That's good, Derek. Yeah, you might be right there, man. You never know what could happen. I don't see it coming. I thought he would take it, but I think he wants to. I don't know why he would want to live in Alabama over Austin. If I was Nick Saban, knowing you only live once, I would go to Austin and take that job in a heartbeat. What more does he got to prove in Alabama?
One of the interesting things about the game of football is that we put so much stock in one game, but you look at a guy like Nick Saban and look at his career, and I mean, it's total success, and it's, I think, a good lesson that you can't necessarily judge something by one snapshot view.
Someone said we're speaking German now. I know we got to get off the sports topic. Let me say this about Nick Saban. He is my favorite leader to study. I love studying his leadership style because he believes in process. And I really, truly believe that everything in life comes down to a well-executed process. But anyways, let's get off sports. Let's turn this into a sports talk internet show here, my friend, because I could definitely go off about last night's game.
Awesome. Hey, and thanks everybody for the weather updates. It looks like it's cold all across the nation, um, so I'll stop whining. Hey, today's topic is awesome. I'm excited about it. As you know, on Fuel for Success, we sort of rotate topics Monday through Friday, and Friday um, is the day that we cover family and relationships. And I'm excited about that. We're going to talk about family and relationships. Good to see Claudio on here. I don't know what the temperature's like in Chile, but good to see you here. And so let's talk a little bit about family and relationships. And I actually had a leftover question from yesterday from John Kennard, who had asked. We were talking about business and entrepreneurship, and we were talking about starting businesses and doing startups and all kinds of things. And John had asked, what about family and balance? And how do you find that balance? You and I both know, working 16, 18, sometimes 20 hours a day, being slammed with details constantly. How do you find that balance between family and all of your personal relationships and that work life, especially as an entrepreneur?
That's actually a very good question. I do get asked that question a lot. I've asked a lot of other highly successful people the same question because balance is always going to be something that highly driven individuals will struggle with. And I've learned some techniques that help me kind of keep it balanced. The first thing I do to help kind of keep a balance between family and business, as you know, maybe follow me on social media, you could probably tell that I'm highly committed as a father, spending a lot of quality time with my son. So I guess that's part of the reason why I do hustle so much and I grind and I execute and I work hard because I value the time. There's no saying that says rich people have money, wealthy people have time. And when you really get to the place in your life where you execute to where you have time to be able to do what you want to do, time to go to the gym, time for prayer, time to volunteer, time for church, time for ministry, time for your business, time for your spouse, time for your kids. We're juggling a lot. But at the end of the day, that's why we have to be masters at managing our time and saying no. One of the biggest secrets of success in balancing is saying no. And I probably say no more to what I say yes to. And my ability to say no without guilt, I do that because of the big picture that I continuously keep my mind on. Those 2 hours of spending quality time with my son without checking my phone or without, checking every text or answering every call, that's valuable to me. So that kind of drives me to stay more focused. So how do you become more balanced? The secret to balance is to balance. I believe when you work, work. And when you play, play. When you're with your family, be with your family. So I block time. So I just said to Caleb this morning, I sat down with him. He's off school, obviously. I can't take the whole day off to go do whatever. And he understands that I'm self-employed. And so I said, Caleb, there's 3 things I'm going to do for you today. Number 1, I'm going to take you to Buffalo Wild Wings because it's his favorite place to eat. Number 2 is we're going to do our baseball drills. And number 3, at some point today, I'm going to take you to the gym. Okay? Anything beyond those 3 things, I'm not going to be able to do today because I have a lot to get done. And he understands that. And so kind of communicating to your family, there's going to be seasons and times when you're extra busy. There's going to be times when you have to explain to your kids, hey, listen, for the next 4 hours, unless it's an emergency, don't interrupt me. But when I'm done, listen, you're going to have 2 hours with me of uninterrupted time. Doing those little things actually makes your family feel better, helps you live more balanced, and then you can get more done when you don't allow so many distractions. Probably the best book I've read when it comes to balance and just getting more done is The Myth of Multitasking. A lot of us, we don't guard our schedule and our time. We allow too much distraction, like people that check their email nonstop, or people that, I have blocks of time where I return calls and return texts just because I would never get anything done if I sat by my phone all day and just looked at every text that came in. So sometimes Mike and I, we probably talk about this every week and we learn from each other. We've tried different techniques, but I'm going to say one more thing about balance. It all comes down to priorities. That's the bottom line. People do what they want to do. The reason why I'm able to spend so much time with my son is because it matters to me. So I make time for it. There's times that sometimes my business struggles. There's times that I actually could make a whole lot more money than I do, or maybe be more successful even than what I am right now. But understanding that in 6 years, my son's going to be 18 kind of keeps it in perspective for me. So again, Mike, this topic right here could be a whole entire show because there's a lot that I would love to say about balance. And we'll cover that more in some of our upcoming episodes as well.
That's great stuff. And I actually, what you were talking about, communicating and setting those expectations with your family, that's powerful. And that's actually something, as you were saying that, I realized that's something I need to do a little better job with myself. So this has been good for me as well. Hey, I also want to remind everyone, feel free to ask questions. We want this to be an interactive session. So you can type questions over there in the chat box. Or down below, you can click on the question and submit a question. We'll bring it on screen and maybe even invite you on camera to ask the question. We'll see how it flows.
Yeah.
And feel free to do that. We'd love to hear
Absolutely. From you. We would love to interact. That's the whole goal, is not for you to listen to us. We want more Q&A than anything, because this show truly is about you. We want to help you, want to empower you, want to serve you, want to encourage you. So if there's things you want to hear about, feel free to bust in the chat box. Mike, real quick before we move to the next question, I admire you a lot.
Yeah.
because you juggle a lot. I know you better than anybody except probably your family. I see how hard you work. I see the quality. You're an amazing husband. I mean, one of the best husbands I've seen. An amazing father. Spent a lot of great time with your kids. You're unbelievably involved in your church, and yet you work yourself to death. I mean, you're an execute. What about you? Well, what maybe share something that you've learned about balancing everything that you balance.
Well, hey, thanks for the kind words. I honestly feel like I can definitely improve on all of those topics, or all of those areas. But I think, for me, I also like what you said about focus and being in the moment. It's so easy to try to get distracted when you're trying to engage with your kids, or you're spending time with your wife, or with anyone in a relationship. And one of the things that I like to be creative and try to come up with unique ways to spend time and engage and do things of that nature. Especially with my wife, I like to surprise her with things that she wasn't expecting. um, so just putting thought into it, and it's really like anything. When you put focus on something, you begin to see opportunities. I'll give you an example. It's sort of a parable, but my son and we do a lot of ultralight backpacking. And so we'll go out for 2 or 3 days, and we'll spend time out in the woods, and we actually stay in hammocks. And I could do an entire show on that. I could do a week of shows on that. It's cool to me. But what happened when we started doing ultralight backpacking, every time we walked into a grocery store or a Walmart or anything, we began to see opportunities, things that we could use, like, oh, this little container would be amazing to keep our olive oil in, or, this thing would be great for our fuel for our stoves. Whereas before, we would have walked right past it because we didn't have that focus. And so when you begin to look for opportunities and you begin to look for things that you can apply, you know,
That's good.
a lot of times it's just a matter of saying, I pray every day, God, make me a better husband, make me a better
Well, that's
father.
probably why you are
And
so
so,
good that you do
with
pray
that,
about. Because I'll be honest, I'll tell you right now, you're definitely in the top three I've seen on both categories. So, and that's coming a lot because I've been around you every day for probably the last, you know, 3 years. But, anyways, it's good stuff, Mike. Very good. It's all about being in the moment, staying focused.
right. Hey, Nathan Henderson, who thinks we should be on TV, by the way.
Hey,
Appreciate that, Nathan. He's got a question. And I love this question. He's asking, how can I switch from work mode to home/family
ooh, that's
mode?
good.
It's a good way to make that
Whew,
transition.
that's good, and that's tough for me too, bro. Because I'm an intensity person. I get into a zone when I start working. I get into like a zone that's like, get out of my way. And it is hard to shut that down and switch into being this, now interacting with a 12-year-old kid. When you're like intense and you're hustling and you're selling and you're motivating and whatnot. What I've learned to switch gears is whenever when I'm done with work, taking a little bit of time. I know some men that exercise right after work. Maybe a good 20-30 minute run on the treadmill would do you immensely good, and it might delay you 30 minutes to your family. But believe it or not, I'm all about quality over quantity. I truly am one of those type of people that love quality time. Now, I've read the 5 love languages. For some reason, my love language is words of affirmation. I don't know why, because I thought it would be quality time because I love it so much. But anyways, maybe doing something like that, maybe taking an extra 20-30 minutes to meditate, to exercise, to clear your head, to write down everything you got to do the next day. Get it out of your mind. That way you just, breathe and just kind of take a few deep breaths. And then when you walk into your home, fully engage into your family. So sometimes it might mean communicating with your spouse and kids. Look, I know I get out of work at 4 o'clock, but I'm not going to be home till 5, because when I get home, I'm all yours. But I need to go to the gym, or I need to, go walk the beach, or I need to go meditate, or I need to go pray, or I need to read a good book, or I need to write out my goals for the next day. These are little things you can do to just kind of switch. But the worst thing you can do is not switch. And sometimes that can be challenging. That's tough on your spouse. That's tough on your kids. when you don't switch. And then of course when you're in family mode and it's time to work, you gotta get into hustle mode. You know, I'm a believer in work when you work. I have a book back there. It's called Fake Work. It's an awesome book, and I see a lot of that. I see a lot of that in some of our churches. We do busy work and fake work and don't really truly produce on what matters and execute on what matters. So that goes both ways. You got to sometimes tell your family and your kids, look, dad needs to work. You know, and they need to respect that as well, because it's good to teach them. I'm glad my son sees me sweat it out. I like that. I'm glad he sees me sacrifice and hustle and hit my goals. And I talked to him about it. So, you know, what my son's doing during the day right now is he's watching Shark Tank episodes and writing down every question that the sharks ask the entrepreneurs. And I'm doing that because I want to see the questions, because I've watched all the shows, but I haven't written them all down. I want to have those. And then I want him to learn these things as well as a kid. So those are his chores that he gets his allowance for. Why pay your kids to take out the trash? Pay them to read a book. You know, pay them to watch a show. You know, and that's my philosophy.
I like that. Yeah, for self-improvement. Pay them to read books.
I do believe in paying our kids, even if it's small, because I believe in teaching our kids young, good money management habits. Now, I don't pay my son a lot, but I do pay him, and I want him to see that cash. Like yesterday, I offered him 4 hours of work, and he only elected to do 2. So when I paid him his cash, I gave him what he earned, and then I held in front of him what he could have had, and I said, look at this. You could have had this had you executed 2 more hours. Needless to say, he's out there hustling right now.
I like that. Hey, Steve Justice says your love language is words of affirmation, but I don't think that means that it excludes Starbucks gift cards.
Definitely. Hey, I feel very loved when I get Starbucks gift cards.
Right. Hey, Robert's asking about doing an audio. Let me look into that, Robert, and we'll see if we can get an audio version available too, so you can download it and listen to it MP3.
Oh, like these episodes?
So we'll see.
Yeah, we might burn them out to a CD.
Yeah, he's asking about doing.
You know, something like that.
I'll look at it. We'll find a way. Thanks for asking that, Robert, and good to see you here. Hey, I got another question for you, and then Carol's got a question too. But let me ask you this: what is your best advice to be successful in relationships?
Now, we're talking about all relationships, like your friends, your dad.
Yeah, just generally.
Relationships in general. My best advice is this. Let me say this. This year in 2014 is a relationship year for me, where I'm slowing down and I'm going for more depth and width. I have a lot of friends out there. I have a lot of people that I know. And I literally could probably spend 6 to 8 hours a day on the phone with people or texting or interacting with people and still come up short with people that I legitimately care about. I read a book, actually. It's called The Power of Who. And in that book, it says that you literally have 100 people, that those 100 people are in your life forever. They would die for you. They would literally find ways that they would stay up all night helping you move. They would help your kid if your kid was sick. These people are like you know 100 people that literally for the rest of your life you would never have to meet another human being. And I'm going to cry here because I went through my contacts on my phone. And I went through just in my mind all the people that I knew. And I tried to discover 100. I tried to develop my who list. And it humbled me because there was way beyond 100 people that I truly felt that I could call at any given moment and say, hey, I'm in trouble, or hey, I need help, or anything, and that's a humbling feeling. So my best advice for relationships is go for quality. I'm the kind of person, and Mike can tell you this, people are shocked to hear this about me. I actually do slow down. Like, I'm the guy that could sit in a coffee shop with you for 4 hours and love every minute of it. I could sit on the porch, swing for 6 hours and sip on tea and just talk. I could, you know, so I think what happens in a lot of our relationships, and I think social media has kind of hurt this a little, is we've lost a lot of the quality. We've lost the personal touch. You know, we're so much text, inbox, tweet, you know, and what I'm doing this year is I'm going back for personal touch myself. I thank God for the technology, but I can't rely on just technology for my interactions. I want true, in-depth connections with people. But my best advice for relationships, was that the question? Is
Yeah.
number one, you have to understand this. If you understand this, this will set you free. I really believe what I'm about to tell you. In fact, I made a list about this. I used to get so hurt if I would lose a relationship, and it used to disturb me. I would try to fight to save it. You know, I would send letters. I would apologize if I was at fault, and sometimes I was. And I would try to save that relationship until one day God literally showed me that there are people in your life. I want you to really listen to what I'm about to tell you. There are people in your life that God Himself only intends to be in your life for a season. And that's so hard for me to accept, because when I love deep, and I want my friends and connections to be in my life for eternity. And so when a season is over, you know, there's a book called Necessary Endings, unbelievable book. That there's just a time when a season is over, and you know, all relationships are about giving. So there's some people that God put in my life, and God used them to give to me and bless me. I was the receiver. And there's some relationships God has brought me in their life to be a blessing to them. And there's some relationships that it's dual, where it's a blessing for them, it's a blessing for me. And that's why you got to be very mature if you're going to be successful in relationships. You can't be one to get offended. You can't be one to get your feelings hurt all the time. You got to get above it. You got to get above the emotional, because people are people. There's always in fact, you can't have relationships without conflict, without heartbreak, without being disappointed, without being hurt, because you're dealing with people, humanity, personalities, people's insecurities. And what's really helped me through this is getting a maturity not to get hurt, and understanding that it's like what Jesus said, forgive them for they know not what they do. There's people that hurt us that they don't even know they hurt us. And then there's the Joseph experience where he said, you know, you thought evil against me, but God meant it for good. So even the people that crushed you, used you, betrayed you, hurt you, God intended that relationship into your life for good, and good will come out of that if you can refrain from getting bitter. My best advice is to understand that then also that there are people that God intended to be in your life forever. And those you better cherish. When you understand and see and sense that you've got a loyal friend that will never, I mean, I just have people, in fact, I made a list of what I feel like are my lifetime relationships. Those people have the highest priority in my world. I'm talking the highest priority. I mean, Mike, I'm glad we're doing this every Friday, because I'm looking and we got 6 minutes left, and I could go on and on and on about this.
Yeah, and we've got a bunch of questions that we're not going to be able to get to all of them. And I'm actually going to skip over Carol's question because she will forgive me, and we'll get back to that one next
She'll
week.
forgive me. And I'll call you,
because we've
Carol.
got about. I want to grab Steve's question here about, and this is about a specific relationship, and I think it's an interesting question. He says he's an active member in the church and he does a lot. How close is too close with his pastor? He says he respects his pastor, but is it dangerous for him to open up with his frustrations or uncertainties?
Ooh, it's a good question. You know, that you got to go with intuition. You got to go with your gut. Your gut never is wrong. Rarely. Rarely. I believe God speaks to us through our gut, our intuition, that gut feeling, that strong impression. So, how close should you be? As close as he's comfortable with. And let me tell you what I believe in. And I haven't mastered this, but I'm a believer in raw. And I scare some people. I scare people that are close to me because I'm by far probably one of the most transparent people you'll ever meet. I believe in raw openness. I'm not afraid to ask. I'm not afraid to communicate and have the tough conversations. So the only way to this question is a coffee with your pastor and say, Pastor, I wanted to draw the lines. I want to know where the lines are in our relationship. I know we're close, and sometimes just raw, open communication, has a way of kind of healing and saving the unknown. I hope I answered that question.
Like that. Thank you. Let's. I'm gonna grab Carol's real quick. We touched on it a little bit, but she's asking, how do you keep your family up to date? And as you know, both of us run. We're entrepreneurs. We're self-employed, basically. And how do there's a difference between working at home and having the family there all the time. How do you what's like your process to keep your family up to date on what you're doing and that sort of thing?
Again, this goes back to an understanding, because a lot of times men, after warring it out all day, they don't really want to come home and talk about the details of their business. A lot of times they just want to just be. I think our homes need to be environments where there's that safety to be and to not feel like you have to perform. I know sometimes for me, when I get out of an intense conference and I come home, I'm just fatigued. I don't want to talk a lot. I'm tired. And I think maybe scheduling times when you have those communication times where you share. One of the things that a man could do is keep a little 3x5 card with him and jot down like 5 details throughout the day that happened. And that way you don't got to worry about remembering. It's there. Something cool happens. You talk to somebody and they told you a cool story. Just write it down on your 3x5 card. And then at some point that night, sit down with your wife and say, hey, let me share with you 5 things that happened today, throughout the business or whatever. That's just a good little practical thing to do as far as communicating details. But as far as keeping your family up to date with your home business, you're talking about like the details of the business, Mike? Is that kind of the question? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I think so.
And then of course, guys, again, it goes back to not being defensive. I think that, I could tell you what I've learned by being defensive, is ask questions, ask about it, and then ask, is this a good time? Do you want to talk about it right now? Because if not, it just goes back to being understanding and being cool with that, and then communicating the details by asking questions. So if he's not giving enough detail, ask. I feel like you're not giving enough detail. You're not ready to talk about it now or whatnot. I hope I answered that question, because if not, we can 3-way Mike and Carol. Carol's Mike's wife, by the way. Guys, wow, this show goes by so fast. I know we still haven't even come close to covering all the topics or getting to all the questions. I see a lot of people have been making comments, which I very much appreciate. Someone recommended a book called Keep Your Love On. Okay, so I think these chat boxes are archived as well, right, Mike? I'm not sure.
Yes.
But just remember, my friends, the beauty of this is that it's archived. Always uploaded to fuelforsuccess.tv. I need every one of you to do me a huge favor. Today, if this show brings value to you, post it on your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram. Promote this link, or they can watch it live at fuelforsuccess.tv. Now we're off for the weekend. I'm going to miss you guys, but we will be back Monday. Get ready. We're going to be talking about health and weight loss every Monday. So if you slip up this weekend, don't worry. I'm coming after you on Monday. I'm going to haunt you I'm going to have you drinking a lot of water and juicing and exercising. You've been awesome. I love you guys. We'll see y'all Monday morning.